Welcome to Working and Wandering.
My name's Chris. I'm one of your hosts.
And I'm Martha, and we're also a Venturesome couple.
We've got a special guest with us, as you can see, or hear.
Hey, everyone.
Today we have Jim Beletti.
Jim, do you mind introducing yourself and letting us everybody know who you are?
Yeah, not a problem. So, my name is Jim Beletti. I work in the RV industry. I'm an RVer. I'm a Texan. And, that's me.
Isn't it a prerequisite to mention Texas first?
I probably should, but I'm a newer Texan.
Yeah, oh, you're a transplant.
A transplant from the Midwest. But we've lived around the country where I've relocated ourselves just due to work so I can be closer to certain customer groups that maybe I didn't touch well enough in the past. And so we move around. But I've dreamed of being a Texan for a very long time. We've traveled to Texas many, many times over the years for events. And I always fancied myself being a Texan. So transplanted Texan.
Nice. Y'all, got to throw a y'all in there. Do you like brisket?
Love it, and I know how to make it.
Oh, well, then you're gold.
I was very intimidated at first, and I only knew crappy brisket from the Midwest, shoe leather. But once I had good brisket, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is what it's supposed to be like, I guess.
Right.
And I was still intimidated to make it, but I had a few mentors, and so now I can do it.
Nice. So, Martha, why don't you tell everybody what we're going to cover today? Jim's got a great story that we hope everybody learns from.
So we are going to talk about tow vehicles for travel trailers in particular.
Yeah, Jim's going to tell us, what do we call it, the $20,000 mistake? Isn't that how you reference it?
It's a mistake. It's a learning. It's however you want to characterize it. But it's costly. And, maybe through this podcast, maybe we can help maybe some newer RVers out. And,
Right.
I'm not a newer RVer, but I made an error, and it was costly. And so maybe we can share it in such a way that people can take away something that's usable for them.
Yeah, and that's, really from our perspective and, the Venturesome couple side of things, that's what we try to do. We want to make sure we're just sharing the information that as it comes and raw and real, and we appreciate you being willing to talk about this because, there's certain amount of people that would probably not be willing to share the fact that, like, oops, I kind of messed up on this one, and we jokingly, and it's a loving term, call it the stupid tax, and unfortunately we pay it off too often. That's why we have two trucks in our driveway right now, as they could probably see on the camera.
They can see it, because I can see it.
I think you're probably right, too, that not a lot of people would want to talk about this. No one likes to air their dirty laundry, if you will.
Right.
But I think we all can be a little self-deprecating every now and then. And in my role in the industry and what I do with thousands of customer touch points annually, I'm all about imparting whatever I can based on my own experiences and my learning. I'm no expert by any means, but let's see if we can help some people.
Absolutely. I'm excited about this because this is a topic that's near and dear to our heart. We've actually had a lot of conversations with you about this as we were planning to buy our new truck for our Delta that we're sitting in front of right now. And so you helped guide us in the right direction, which, that's invaluable. We can't thank you enough for that.
Happy to do so.
And you helped us guide through some stuff with our Delta travel trailer, even though it's a different floor plan, but you gave us a lot of helpful tips that we actually implemented and bought. And
yeah, she's saying you cost us money.
Yeah. Well, I'm pretty good at helping people spend their money.
So what's your start from the beginning? Kind of where are we at, and how did you get to the point where you're at from the SUV? And
okay,
go from there.
Great. Let me back up even further and say that mistakes can happen to anyone. And at any skill level, at any level of experience, things sometimes just happen, especially as we age a little bit and we're not as keen and swift and this and that. And that isn't what happened here, but I've made age-related mistakes recently as well. In any event, let's back up with a little background. So I've been RVing for about 20 years. I've had a lot of RVs over that period of time. I counted up before this podcast. I believe I've had 9 RVs and 8 tow vehicles.
Wow.
And so it's a lot. But working in the RV industry and actually in a role that is customer-facing, and I mean literally customer-facing, like right here, right now, in this setting here at a campground. I wanted to RV. I was an RVer before I came into the industry, and we just have maintained that RV lifestyle. In fact, at some points, we were RVing 75% of the year. We owned homes and didn't see them very much. In any event, so yeah, about 20 years RVing, about 20 years in the industry as well, all in customer facing roles. And lots and lots of RVs, lots and lots of tow vehicles. And I always try to work hard to match my tow vehicle to what I'm going to be towing. And I can research as good as anyone else can. And I've always matched my vehicles up pretty well, if not over-trucked. An F550 was in there, multiple F450s, even an F150 when I was pulling a small travel trailer like I'm doing now with my Delta 262 RV from Alliance RV. And it was a different brand RV, but now I've got the Delta, and now I'm looking at, what do I need to tow that? And after having that many tow vehicles and that many RVs and that many heavy-duty trucks, my wife Nancy just didn't want to be continuously beat up by the rough ride of those heavy-duty trucks.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things you can do to them, but at the end of the day, it's still a truck. It's purpose-built, and it's just, you're going to be bouncing down the road, and you're going to feel everything. And so for this particular Delta travel trailer build, we wanted to do something a little bit more comfortable. So we decided to look at SUVs. And what I found out there is researched every SUV sold in the country, and one kind of stood slightly above the rest in terms of capacity, and that was the reintroduced Jeep Wagoneer. I think it was reintroduced for the 2022 model year. We went ahead and purchased, we ordered, in fact, a 2023 Jeep Wagoneer Series S with their maximum trailer towing package, as well as their full air ride suspension that they call Quadra-Lift, which is not a new thing for Jeep. They've been putting in the Cherokees for some time. And it seemed to be like it was going to be a good fit. 10,000-pound maximum tow capacity, 1,000-pound hitch weight capacity. And, we thought, awesome. So ordered the RV, ordered the truck, did our summer trip last year. The truck came in record time, 31 days. I had my next-door neighbor go pick it up and put it in my garage, and we caught up with it months later when we came home. And then a couple months after that, went to pick up the RV. All was good. Trotted around Elkhart County doing this and that, and towed it home empty. All good. And it wasn't until we loaded it up for our first trip, and then also in the interim, I had put in a power system and a few other upgrades to where I saw that we were having some issues with it. So that's kind of the setup as to a little bit of a background, and then where are we now? How did we get here? And then we'll talk about what happened next.
Yeah, and I mean, definitely can't argue with the luxury aspect of the Jeep Wagoneer. Those things are just gorgeous, and I think you said it was like riding on a cloud, is what you told me the other day.
It's really nice when that air suspension is operating correctly, which is, when you're not overloading it with a trailer. It's a sweet, sweet ride, and the Series 2 has some bells and whistles, and it's just a really comfortable ride, and it's a ground-up redesign. I think it had been retired for something like 40 years, and they did a full redesign, and it's really nice. It's very luxurious, and we also went down to one vehicle recently. So another reason for something a little bit more luxurious for towing. It's our grocery getter. It's our errand runner. It's our daily driver. And so for the 75% of the year that we don't RV, we want it to be a nice vehicle, a comfortable vehicle, a vehicle that's got a lot of safety features and creature comforts. And so for that, it fit the bill. Yeah.
So where did the problem start? Where did you find out, we got a challenge here?
So we hit the Texas Allies rally in Mineola, Texas, just east of Dallas recently. Had a really nice time there. And didn't notice anything on the way to Mineola, but when I hitched up this is a civic center, think county park, think fairgrounds, if you will. So the camping can be a little awkward, a little strange, and I was up on an a concrete pad next to a sidewalk, next to a street, and to rehitch, I had to back up a curb and then get up to the coach. And really, I was connecting kind of at an angle.
Yeah.
And I was able to get on the ball good and get it all hitched up, and then just crawled it down. And almost immediately, something seemed off. And it wasn't until later that day I realized I had no air in my suspension. And maybe towing it there, it didn't manifest itself or exhibit this issue, but and maybe what started it was this really wonky hitch setup there,
right?
And things just kind of went downhill from there. So that's when it all started, a few weeks ago.
Nice. And that's never not a good feeling when you're on an air suspension with no air.
Yeah.
So what ultimately led to it to basically evacuate all the air?
Yeah, so interesting on this, something I've learned is it's nitrogen in there, not atmospheric air, and it's stored in a tank. And when the vehicle needs to re-level itself based on its load, or when you select a different ride height, then it will push nitrogen into the system and into those shocks and air them up. And then when you need to go down, it will evacuate it and back into the tank. The question again exactly was...
how did you basically find out that you had no air at that point, or no nitrogen?
It was the ride. So the ride was rougher. We were feeling all those lines in the road. Anytime the road met an overpass, we would feel it harshly. So I don't think we really had any tires rubbing on the inner fender wells. I believe there's some internal jounce bumpers inside these air springs, if you will. It's quite a complex system. It's different than airbags that you might put on your truck just to re-level yourself. It's more complicated than that. It's more sophisticated. It does more things.
Yeah.
Right.
So, we could just feel it in the road.
So what caused it?
Well, okay. So, long story, if you will. I'll try to make it as short as possible. I was over the hitch weight rating for the Jeep Wagoneer of 1,000 pounds.
Gotcha.
And it turns out I was 1,300 pounds. And so the bigger story here is how did we get there from where we thought we would be. But, 1,300 pounds, so 300 pounds over its max capacity.
And, of course, being a newer vehicle, it's all computerized and electronic systems, so the system probably freaked out on you and said, hey, wait a minute, this isn't right.
Exactly. So it was throwing some funny messages on the screen when we would try to modulate the air just from the ride height control that you can control easily with a paddle switch in there, which we didn't do initially because we didn't know we didn't know anything was wrong at first.
Right.
And something is wrong, and we didn't know what it was, and we didn't try modulating that switch. But once we did, it would throw a message on the screen, and it would tell us that it could not change the ride height due to payload. So
Gotcha.
it gave us an idea.
Right.
It didn't tell us what it was. Now, I believe it probably knows what the weight is on it, and it's probably obtainable with the right tool to get it out of the system. But we didn't have any tool like that, nor is there any tool today that's consumer grade that we could hook up to the port and read. Well, we can read codes, but this wasn't throwing any codes, by the way. I've been to 3 dealerships getting it reset.
Gotcha.
And it does not throw a code, and I could not find a tool that we could use that could communicate with the Jeep system where we could go in and reset the air suspension. But that was the temp fix 3 times, was to beg a Chrysler dealership to get it in that day or the next day and reset the system. And so we had to do that a few times just to limp ourselves along.
Sounds very frustrating. And
very frustrating. And it doesn't hold either. Just because you reset it doesn't mean your trailer weight changed, right?
Right. So as soon as the system reads it again, it's like, we got a problem here.
Pretty much. It would hold it for a little while, but over the course of the day, it would lose all that pressure, and it would push the nitrogen back into the bottle.
So you weren't actually losing the nitrogen. It's just it wouldn't regenerate itself back into the system. Is that what it was doing? It was just holding in the reservoir?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is good. So that's one of the first things the first dealer did was tested the system, and there's a test they can do for volume, and the volume of nitrogen was still within specification, so it wasn't leaking atmospherically or anything like that.
Oh, well, so I guess that's a positive, right?
Yeah, the positive is we didn't actually break the Jeep, but it didn't like what we were doing to it, so no money out of pocket to date, but that comes later in the story.
You're right.
Like in about a minute or two.
Yeah, and I one of the things that comes to my mind is I don't think people always realize how easy it is to be overweight when it comes to something like that. And if you have a truck, say a half ton, 3/4 ton, 1 ton, depending on the circumstances, and you're over your cargo capacity or you're over your payload, well, the truck isn't going to scream at you because you're just going to be sitting on your helper springs, or you'll be on the bump stocks.
Right.
Where you have an electronic suspension, those numbers become extremely important. Not that they're not normally, because they are. You want to be within capacity. But I think it becomes more of a obvious issue when you have something that is running on air, and it becomes a sensor. Like, well, there's no way around this. How do we lose 300 pounds off the front?
Yeah. If you even know, what your weight is. So that was a process of peeling back the layers of the onion to figure out, well, how overweight are we? Is there anything we can do?
Right.
How does this compare with how it was advertised, with how it was produced? And those are 3 different sets of numbers, and we should explain that.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so, not singling out Alliance RV whatsoever, but just the industry in general, as a good practice, will publish prototypical weights for every floor plan that they produce, and those weights will be typically what comes out on a specific RV when they kick them off the line. But there can be variables there in terms of options that add weight and this and that as well. So I don't mean to speak as an expert for Alliance RV, for any RV manufacturer in terms of how they come up with their floor plan weights. But there is a published weight, and it's a good starting point to know that my RV may weigh in that range. I've heard them being lighter. I've heard them being heavier, and some people have been spot on as well. But I did some things. I asked for some things, and working in the industry, I had a little bit more access to some things. And I did some things during the build process that added to my weight.
Right.
So just to throw the first number out there, the published weight, if I remember this, is about 700 pounds, 702, 704 for the Delta 262 RB. That's the published hitch weight.
Gotcha.
And for the purpose of this podcast, we're just going to focus, for the most part, on hitch weight, because that's where I was in error and overweight, if you will. I'm still under gross on the trailer, or on the truck. But so we're looking at about a 700-pound hitch weight as advertised, and I did some things that made it kick out of the factory a couple of 100 pounds over that, so in the 900-pound range.
Right. So you had a tight window to start with.
Yeah, and honestly, I didn't know what my production weight was going to be. I only know what the published weight would be for the standard RV with no additional options. There's not a lot of options for these RVs, but there's some things that you can do that push it over. And if you have access to certain content from suppliers and that you can get on that coach, then that can do it as well. And that's kind of what did it for me. And I'll go through a couple of them here. So I worked with Dexter Axle to try something different on this travel trailer and try their anti-lock braking system. That anti-lock braking system requires axles and hubs that are very specific to the ABS system. So that meant we weren't going to be using the OEM supplied Dexter axles that we would normally put on that coach. I don't recall what the rating is on them, but 3,500 or 42?
I think they're 4,400.
4,400? Okay.
I think that's what they are.
So what we did was we stepped up just a little bit at my request, just to step up a little bit, just give me a little bit more. So I've got two 5,200-pound axles. So I'm axled for 10,400 pounds, which is over the gross vehicle weight rating for the RV, and so that you always need to keep that in mind, of course. So just because I'm over-axled or over-tired, your coach is designed and rated and engineered for a specific maximum gross vehicle weight, and so that's that rating, and mine is not rated for 10,400 pounds. But anyway, I had that on the axle. So the axles contributed some, because it's going to be thicker walls for that heavier duty axle. So I don't know what that added. Let's call it maybe 100 pounds at the most. And then I had auto leveling, which I would never not have on an RV.
I agree. We're spoiled.
Fortunate to have auto leveling on almost every single RV I've had, and it was one of those things where I said, I will never have an RV without this. Just hit that magic button, and it just does its dance. And I said the same thing about satellite dishes too, that you didn't have to point yourself. Those weren't the fun days. And man, when Weingard came out with their system, boom, hit that button, and she would just do its thing. In any event, I digress. So, so we start out with a published weight of about 700 pounds. I end up out the factory at about 900 pounds. Didn't know that at the time. That's not something that is stickered, that particular thing on the coach. But it wouldn't have mattered. I had already ordered my trailer. I had already ordered my truck. I had already decided what I was going to have done incremental during production. And then, even worse, I had already decided that we were going to put our stuff in the RV. Clothes, food, other things, and a power system. And a lot of that power system lives north of the axles.
Right.
Therefore, the lever, the teeter-totter is going to be,
heavier on tongue.
The heavy kids on the front there. So, battery, inverter, that sort of thing.
Yeah, and I know you added a little bit bigger propane tanks. And
yeah, no, thanks for that reminder, too. So, I did upgrade to 30-pound propane tanks, which empty aren't that much weight, but full, it's another 50% weight on there. So it all adds up. It really does. I've got solar panels on the roof as well. And so one could argue that some of those are behind the axles, but some are over the axles. So there's going to be some contribution to the front. Some are in front of the axles, 100% contribution to the hitch weight.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and attendant items like solar charge controllers, DC controllers, combiners, circuit protection, that sort of thing. Copper wires. Not light either.
We learned that on the Paradigm. I was like, how much is my solar weigh? 800 pounds? Woo! God, we got a good cargo capacity. Yeah, we can't do that on the Delta. A little too big. Yeah, so you find out that you're in a position where, okay, I'm over on my payload. The Jeep Wagoneer is clearly not going to do what you want because obviously the system is very frustrated with you. And what have you figured out for the remedy at this point?
Yeah, so the obvious remedy, since, as you mentioned, there's just nothing we can do with the Wagoneer. You can't put airbags on the air system to re-level. You can't, redesign the structure of it to give it a different rating. We can't trick the computer system and saying, hey, 1,500 pounds is the new 1,000, help me out here. And so really, the only thing you can do is change your RV, change your tow vehicle, or change what you've got in it. And, we do things in life because we want to. Sometimes we do things sometimes because we need to. And some of the things that I've got on the RV are wants, and they serve a specific desire, maybe not quite a need, but a desire. And one of those is just flexibility in camping. So if I want to cracker dock like you guys have done. If I want to driveway surf in the driveway of friends and family, which is amazing. It's not for saving money. It certainly doesn't cost less money when you take family out for a $300-400 meal because there's 5 of them. It's for the convenience of it, and it's for the ability to stop and smell the roses on the way, and sometimes literally at a harvest host at and maybe in Michigan in tulip season or something like that. It's a means to an end. So hence the lithium batteries to power the inverter, to make inverted AC power, to utilize the coach just like we're plugged up to a campground whenever we're in someone's driveway. Or for us, we travel with pets, so we don't eat in restaurants while on travel days. We eat in our coach. We're eating leftovers, we're making a sandwich, we're using the microwave, we're using an induction cooktop, we're using the air conditioning, we're using we're using whatever we need to use to be comfortable for that maybe hour driver break and lunch. And so I want to be able to use the air conditioner. I want her to be able to use the microwave if she wants to. If we want to make a cup of coffee, we get the carry out, we make a cup of coffee. And it is so nice to do that. And sometimes with the smaller inverters that come with some of these smaller campers, if they come with them, they're just not up for the task. Usually, definitely not for the air conditioner. And then, of course, batteries don't come with most coaches. Those are usually dealer supply. They're usually going to be lead acid. So anyway, so you couldn't power an air conditioner with it anyway. So, and then we've got the a dual fuel small generator in the back of the coach as well, plumbed into the propane system, and then hooked into the inverter so that we can power the coach that way, or so we can charge batteries that way, and the sun, and then we'll be doing DC to DC. But back to your question, what are we going to do? What's the fix? The fix for us isn't unloading any of that stuff, not removing that power system. It's not changing the trailer, which we love and we've modified to our liking. It's changing the tow vehicle. And so that's where the $20,000 error really rears its head. So I'll take a $20,000 hit on the vehicle trading it in, difference between what I paid and trade value.
Right.
And I'm going to get, the bigger the truck you can get, the more, margin you have for safety. But again, we would think of comfort too. So we're trying to balance that.
Yeah.
You get into the heavy duty line, the 250, 2500 and up, and you get that stiffer ride. Your trailer's a little bit bigger than ours. It's just a little heavier than ours. So we want to stay in that half-ton range, and we want to order up a truck or buy a truck off the lot that has the capability that we need for towing. So that's going to be with the max trailer towing package, which is a combination of various factors like the rear gearing, the engine, a few other things, as well as well, I lost my later
brake system's another thing that's always in there that's heavily discussed online when it comes to towing is how do you stop it, right? So having something that's capable.
Well, and your trailer brakes, if set up properly, should be stopping your coach. And likely they can stop the whole train. Squeeze those levers and find out.
Hold on.
don't mash them.
Right.
And but you don't want to under brake either. But anyway, for us, we're looking at a half-ton truck that is properly equipped. Probably to tow in the 13,800 pound range.
Oh, okay.
To tow, we've got a GVWR of in around 9,000 or so. We might be pushing that a little bit on the trailer, but I don't want to be pushing it on the tow vehicle. So I want to have a couple thousand pounds of margin there. And then we're looking at a trailering capacity, a conventional trailer hitch capacity in the 30-some hundred pound range. Versus our 1,300 pounds, which is known. So that is known because I did take it to a CAT scale on the way here. I ran the truck across it with us in it. Then the next day I pulled the trailer across it, did the math, and so I know all the numbers.
So what sequence of events would you recommend for somebody that's brand new, that's looking at this and listening to us and going, okay, I want to buy a trailer, but I want to buy a truck. How do we do this in an order that makes sense?
Yeah, so I think you can do it in either order, really. You can say, hey, we're going to buy whatever works with the current tow vehicle that we own. And you really need to know then what are the capacities of your tow vehicle. And those are easily findable in a couple of places. I have a friend who wrote the RV Tow Check app. You can use his app. You can go to the manufacturer's website for your truck and find out the tow capacities. I believe most of the numbers you need are going to be on the placard on the inside of the driver's door jamb as well. So there's a lot of resources to find out what your specific build of your truck is capable of. And you can't just look at high-level generic information. There are so many subtleties to it. Which cab style, which bed length, which rear end gearing do you have, which engine do you have? Those all feed into what your trailering capacities are. Also, trim levels can derate that as well, because as you go up in trim levels, you go up in content. As you go up in content, not only do you go up in cost, you go up in weight as well. So you can match an RV to your truck's capacity with a little bit of margin if that's your desire to do that. If your truck is at the time where, I was thinking about a new truck anyway, maybe what you do is you go out and you look for that RV you want, and then you match your truck to it. And if you're buying a trailer at the same time as you're ordering a truck or something like that, and you don't know what your produced weight is going to be if you're doing an order out versus buying off the lot, then do some research and get on there on some forums, get on there on manufacturing Facebook groups, and find out what people's real weights are, and then find out what content they have in their coach too, because all that matters. Those details actually matter. But, matching the weights up with the capability of your truck, matching the weights of your RV, the actual production weights loaded with your stuff, with all the doodads you're putting on it, match it up with the capabilities of your truck. So you can do it either way, but it's all about the numbers.
Oh, that's a fact. And we went a little crazy on our truck, and by the time this comes out, everybody will know what we got. But we decided, even though we're just under 34 feet in our Delta, we decided to do a 3,500 truck.
Yeah. So we got a 1-ton single rear wheel, short bed, crew cab. It's an Alaskan edition for Chevy Silverado.
Yeah, and it's exactly what you're talking about, trim levels. So it was the balance of, do I want every gadget and goodie in there for the price and the weight, or do I want the capacity? And we decided to go with a lower trim level than what we have in our dually and get a much higher capacity. So we were future-proofing ourselves. And I think at one point we wanted to kind of make to people is, you mentioned 9 trailers. So we're on number 4, which means we've got 5 more probably in our future.
Don't try to catch up. It's expensive.
No. Yeah.
Oh, I trust me.
Fortunately, I
agree.
didn't have to buy all those trailers, working in the industry, but I did buy all those trucks.
Right. But that's why we chose the way we did with 3500, which is probably way overkill for the Delta.
But it's also gas. So instead gas versus diesel, there's that. I mean, we did ask the question on our tour video, what kind of truck do you think we should get? And I like what you mentioned, how do you travel? What is your lifestyle like? We have a home base, so we're able to travel light, and this is a new adventure for us. So we're like, let's go with the 1 ton, go with the gas, but the short bed, because our 1 ton dually is a 8-foot bed, and we didn't need all that.
Right, and it didn't fit in our driveway. So those are all considerations. We have an HOA, right? That's another factor people have to think about is, will this fit where I want it to be?
Well, that's a good point, too. And some of us have garages, and we like to garage them. And we've all read for years, I don't want no stinking dually. It won't fit in my garage.
Right.
Or I don't want that long bed quad cab because it won't fit in my garage. Or it's my grocery getter, and I don't want to park that beast. And those are all valid considerations as well. When we built our home in Texas, I built it 35-foot deep, so I knew I could, and I didn't have a dually. I had a 2019 F-150,
nice,
pulling a travel trailer,
right,
just like the travel trailer I've got, different brand, and it was a perfect match. But I'm glad I kind of future-proofed myself because it wasn't long, and I had an F-450 sticking in that garage. So
right, yeah, that's smart, and we're kind of doing the future-proofing thing for our 1 ton that we just bought. Is we know we like to change trailers. We do it every few years. It's a lot of fun. We love the thrill of the build and customization, and so buying a 1 ton gets us so that we could do a 5th wheel in the future. And as long as it's rated, ours is rated at I think 18.3, and so as long as we stayed in the, we'll say 16.5 as a max, we would have enough with it's got a 4,300 pound payload. So same thing. I don't want to buy
capacity there.
Yeah, I don't want to buy another truck down the road. So we're more looking at it as which trailers could we accommodate our truck with moving forward. So the Delta we have, we love. We just got it. We don't plan to get rid of it. But I know me, and I like to change things. So
in different seasons of our life, we went full time in a 45-foot Alliance Valor toy hauler.
Right.
Did that for a year. Then we bought a home base in Florida. So we downsized to the Paradigm, Alliance Paradigm 340 RL, which is just under 38 feet. And then now we wanted to try something different. Alliance came out with travel trailers. We waited about a year and fell in love with this floor plan, which is similar to what we had, but it's still different.
Yeah. And I think that the model being a Delta is a good, kind of a good analogy for what was missing in our life, because we're back where we started.
Well, even Paradigm.
Right.
Paradigm
it's a shift
for you, and then now the difference, the change.
The change is the Delta. Yeah, we're literally back. We're within 1 foot of where we started with our first travel trailer.
Okay.
Yeah. It was 33 feet long and 25, 26 feet living space inside, but I don't know. I just love this floor plan.
Yeah. And what do you think is the key takeaway, in your opinion, for somebody that's just overwhelmed on all this? Like, where do I go with the cargo capacity? I don't understand payload. GVWR, what is that? Like, what resource would you send somebody to? And
sure. Well, let me come back to that, because I want to go back to something that you mentioned. So another reason you've got a new truck is you sold your Paradigm as a combination with your truck as well. And so that was a perfect fit for your buyers. And, you want to make sure that you can move all this and versus, we sold the trailer, now we got the truck, and now we got a smaller trailer, what do we do? And so it's great what you were able to do is to sell that combination, and the new owners are going to love it, and it's going to be quite capable. But if you weren't in that situation, another recommendation I would have for someone who, what are they going to do? It's time to, let's say, float down to a travel trailer.
Right.
And they've got that dually, or they've got that 1 ton SRW, or that that 3/4 ton SRW, is keep what you got if you want, as long as it isn't part of a package deal that you're getting rid of it with your trailer as you're floating down or moving to a travel trailer. Keep what you got. I mean, I'm not here dually bashing. I had a lot of them, and I loved the capability. I loved the stability of towing. I love the contact patch on the ground. I'm a big proponent, but that's me.
Yeah.
So okay.
Us too. So I agree. And we spent last week. Everywhere we moved our Delta was with the dually, and it was more like, is there even a trailer back there? Because you're right. You're talking an overbuilt truck for a sub 10,000 pound trailer. So.
And we ordered this dually when we were still living in Alaska, so it has every option on there we wanted. And
Yeah.
It was a flip of a coin. Do we sell it? Do we not? We didn't list it with the Paradigm, but talking with the couple and after a few meetings, it's like, okay, it felt right just to sell it. The price was right for the package deal. And
yeah, and I will say that is keeping what you have is a great advice because it would have saved us a lot of money. I mean, we know that new trucks are expensive, and there's ways you can get around a little bit of that with, you know, gas engines and things of that nature if it makes sense. But yeah, we would have been in a much better place. Although Martha said people would have picked on me if I'd have showed up with a dually towing a Delta.
I told him
awesome.
I told him I would just tow it in because we both tow. But we kept the dually from the Valor to the Paradigm, so we did do that. It was just a toss of a coin for us because, like Chris said, at our home base, we can't park it in the driveway. We stick out.
It doesn't fit.
It doesn't fit.
And I think you nailed a point that is something that RVers have to take into consideration is you are going to be jeopardizing comfort for capacity. Right, like either both of our trucks, the dually and the 1-ton, are both rough riding compared to, like, Martha used to have a Nissan Armada with the air suspension, and that thing was just soft and enjoyable to ride in. These things beat the snot out of you, but it's the capacity versus the capability. And
well, and I would even phrase it another way, and it is safety versus comfort sometimes as well. So we're more comfortable riding in that Wagoneer. I'm more comfortable riding in an F-150 Platinum, but if I need a 250, if I need a 350, you know, because of safety, based on capacity, then you got to do that. I mean, that's
right.
You got to do that first and then make it as comfortable as you can. So to wrap up, you wanted a couple of resources, perhaps?
Yeah, that would be wonderful because we want to point people in the right direction if they're in our...
So I hadn't thought about that before scheduling the podcast, but I do have a couple of things off the top of my head. So I think first and foremost, the RVSEF, Recreational Vehicle Safety Education Foundation, I believe it's rvsef.com, is a really good resource online to understand the terminology of GVWR, GVW, GCVWR, TW, all those acronyms that we throw around and that you see listed on manufacturers' websites, both for your tow vehicles and for your RVs.
Right.
Your RV manufacturer can also be a resource as well. And I don't think you should rely on just one. I think you should scrape many resources and synthesize that data. And then another one I'd throw out there again is and I don't know the web address, but RV Tow Check, my friend David Gray has a website that's very informative, and I think he's got an app. It might even be free. I'm not sure online where you can calculate your stuff. But educate yourself on what the terminologies mean.
Yeah.
Apply those terminologies then to your RV and to your truck. Oh, okay, GCVWR, gross combined vehicle weight rating is my truck and my trailer. And that rating comes from the truck manufacturer, and it says my truck plus my trailer can't be over this.
Right.
Okay, that's a good start.
Yeah.
You know, just understanding that specification and knowing what it means. Okay, and then gross vehicle weight rating on your trailer. That's what the max your manufacturer says it's engineered, designed, and produced for.
Right.
Don't want to go over that, preferably. And so, utilize any resource you have available to you. Think about RVSEF, think about RV Tow Check, think about your RV manufacturer. Utilize the manufacturer of your tow vehicle. You can Ford, GMC, Ram, wherever. They've got towing guides out there that are easily findable through a quick online search.
Yeah, and one point I definitely want to make is you mentioned early on about the forums, and I think that's a great place to get feedback on, you know, like you said, real world situations, what people's weights are. But I would definitely caution using forums solely as your advice and or data gathering. I like the fact that you really pointed them towards resources that are going to be non-biased in their opinion, because you tell, you know, 3 different people like, oh, Ford's better than Dodge versus Ram versus Chevy, and everybody's got an opinion, but when you say go to the RV safety, they don't care. They're just looking at, does the number make sense to the trailer? And that's something I think is really important, because we all have our biases inherently. We want to make sure that what information we're giving out isn't laden with bias that is going to point somebody in the wrong direction. And sometimes on the forums, people are, it doesn't matter if it's 20,000 pounds. My half ton can do it.
Throw airbags on it.
Throw airbags on it, right? And we don't want to do that.
Interesting point, too. The RVSCF is industry supported, so it's RV industry supported.
Right.
So they don't have a dog in the hunt in terms of a specific RV manufacturer or
Right.
a specific vehicle. They're a nonprofit entity that is there just to give out information, safety information, tire and weight safety information to the RV industry and to RVers. In fact, we're sitting here in Elkhart, Indiana as we record this.
Yep.
Soon we'll be down in Goshen, Indiana, and we'll all be at the Alliance RV National Rally, and
Yep.
the RVSCF will be there doing two important functions. And they perform these functions at many, many rallies all over North America throughout the year. And that is, they will, for a fee, weigh your vehicle on the way in, your tow vehicle, your truck, and you'll produce a fabulous report, and they'll go over it with you to show you where you're actually at. I recommend any RVer have that done at least once after you're fully loaded. This is how we roll. Let's get it weighed, either CAD scale or through a professional org like RVSCF and others, and know those weights. And I guess that was my point on that.
Yeah, and we personally done that at the rally every year. So I love how they weigh each axle, and when they go over it with you, it's really cool because you learn, on this side of the trailer in the back, you should recalculate like what you put there. So put it somewhere else and just kind of give you more of a balance. And they recommend like how your tire pressure should be.
Yeah, it's weight distribution and it's tire by tire most of the time. So they'd say, you're 300 pounds light on this tire, or you're 400 pounds heavy on that tire. Can you move weight around? And here's the PSI you should be running for optimal performance for your truck and your trailer and all that. So I agree with you completely. It's a worthwhile investment into the safety of your RV adventures.
It's good info. And the other point that I'd forgotten was with the RVSCF is also at these rallies, in addition to performing weighing services, they also will do a seminar. So we've got them on a presentation stage where they'll be talking RV weight and tire safety. So talk all about tire ratings, about speed ratings, about weighing your RV and this and that. So it's a good service that they provide at no cost to attendees, because they're industry sponsored, so manufacturers are paying for that. So,
well, thank you very much for sharing your story and your expertise, because this is such an important topic that I think all RVers need to hear, and that we all have the potential to become complacent on things. And not to say that was your circumstances at all, but you want to make sure that you're just making sure everything matches up and is according to plan and puts you in a good position safety-wise.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I would like to, end also with, please don't take this as a knock towards a Jeep Wagoneer. It's a major vehicle, or towards a travel trailer, or my brand of travel trailer. It has nothing to do with any of these entities. The situation that I find myself in here that is going to cost me $20,000 this week or next week, whenever I can find that unicorn truck that is built just right, because I don't have time to order one, and I'm not towing another mile with the Wagoneer because it's not safe. So that's a takeaway there. Just, it's nothing about these choices, these brands, nothing wrong with them. It's all about the math.
Right.
Yeah.
Do your research, have your data, apply the formulas, do your math, use these resources out there.
And I joke with Chris, and I call it, that's a lot of voodoo math, because there's so many different things that go into it. And Chris is really good with numbers, but we actually learned with the different trim levels that there's different payloads, and we were pleasantly surprised because we did compromise. We didn't get to order our newest truck, which I was like, oh no, we don't get to order it. It's not going to be here in time. We did ask.
Right.
So we're pleasantly surprised with this one that we got a higher payload than we thought we were going to get. Yeah. And we did get we at least got the heated seats and steering wheel that I wanted.
That goes back to the
edition, right?
Yeah, it's Alaska edition.
No, that goes back to happy wife, happy life. You got the Wagoneer because that's what the boss wanted, and that's sometimes that's just the way it goes.
The queen enjoys her comfort.
That's right.
Yeah. So we compromised with the voodoo math on this. So happy wife, happy spouse. So
there you go.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again for joining us, and we'll make sure you let them know where you're at, because you have a YouTube channel, and we haven't talked about that.
Yeah, well, there's not much content on it, but Beletti RV is a YouTube channel I have, so I suppose that would be what youtube.com @ Beletti RV, Beletti RV. Not much content there, but maybe some to come. And it'll be kind of the same sort of thing, just helpful things, not me showing off something I did, me showing what I did to give you the confidence that you too could install a lock, install a solar panel, install a filtration system, whatever. And it's not going to be a step-by-step, but it's going to give you some ideas, and I'll talk about why I did it, what are the benefits, and a little bit about how it's done. But just informative things, just some fun.
Yeah, and you're humble. You're a mad scientist. You do some cool stuff. We will be following you because we are always texting you and asking you questions. So I would recommend, if you're seeing this on YouTube or you're listening to this on the podcast, go find Beletti RV. I promise you, you will not be disappointed. He does some amazing things to trailers. Yeah,
and I'll post those links down in the description below on the podcast as well as on YouTube.
Again,
thanks, guys.
Thank you very much for your time.
You betcha. Anytime.
Thank you. And if you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget, like and subscribe. Ring that little bell so you know when our videos come out. And if you have any questions, leave it down below in the comments, and we'll have Jim check it, or we'll just relay the message over to Jim.
Yep. Thank you, and enjoy every moment.
See y'all.